Good evening, and bienvenue, my fond fair Rouge Raiders. This is your humble narrator, Diomedes Rouge, here to bring you part 2 of What If the Doomslayer Was in the Gears of War? Oh yes. Now this will be picking up a few years after the initial time of the first episode. Oh yes, the Doomslayer is equipped with his current armor and armaments, as well as Marcus Phoenix going through, well, the unfair trial and tribulation that was forced upon him. Being liberated from, well, the prison and making his way, well, to the mausoleum. Oh yes, this is quite the sight. This is going to be quite fun. For you see, upon landing there and upon everything getting set up, so to speak, their squad being ambushed and being pinned down by several different large amounts of machine gun fire from the Locust Horde, they begin to hear something. Explosions off in the distance, coming towards them, slowly but surely. They think it's another locust. They think it's another swarm. But in reality, it is the Slayer. Yes, but why is he here? Well, simple. The Slayer has had plenty of, how should we say, time to kill the demons, and he's had plenty of things to keep him preoccupied up until, well, we could say he killed the big one. But after that, he was left with really not much of a purpose, with not much of anything to fight. He was a supreme warrior without a war. He was a champion with no one to contend his title. He was a blade that would be left in his case to dull and wither till there was nothing left of it but rust and the former glory that would be his steel. He did not like this idea. He did not like this idea in the slightest. So what does he do? Well, what would any person do if you are only good for one thing, and that thing is no longer available for you to do in that area? You go to a different area. And in his case, he started becoming somewhat of what you would call a charity worker. And what I mean by that is, he would appear and help out other dimensions' problems. Fixing things up, changing things around, even wiping out massive hordes. It's what he does, after all. In this case, the first stop on his list was a place he came to oh so many years ago. A place overrun by these strange creatures. He thought, well, they're not as big or strong or as deadly as demons, but they are massive in scale and scope. Might as well rip and tear while I got the chance. And so he did. Pardon me one moment. Now, Marcus Phoenix, Kim, and Dom, as well as Carmine, make their way through the mausoleum. Slowly but surely, taking out any swarm of locusts that come their way. From the rampaging boomers to the ever so classical grunt. As they rev their chains on their guns and hack through them whenever it's optional, letting loose volleys of machine gun fire to completely stamp out the opposition, and trying their best not to get stamped out in turn. However, upon finally making their way outside, everything getting ready and set for a possible big fight, Carmine runs to Lieutenant Kim, telling him his gun keeps jamming, pounding on it, trying to fix this machine. As a sniper takes his aim, about to loose a shot straight at Carmine's skull. The rang is heard as all of a sudden you hear the impact of a bullet bouncing off a set of armor, off of solid steel, as everyone turns to see from over the cover a emerald green man, coated man, armor stout and sturdy, and quite menacing, emanating a very malicious aura of killing intent. As they question, what the hell? Where did he come? But before they could even finish what they were saying, the locust horde began to swarm and charge at them, loosing volleys of machine gun fire themselves, getting pinned down in their position. Phoenix running over, hopping on the, turret to try and pin down the enemy opposition, but as he does, he notices, that the Emerald Sentinel, or at least a wannabe, is bringing out a very large and very impressive looking minigun. As he revs it up and just begins laying into them. As Phoenix and this Green Sentinel carve their way through this locust horde in a hail of bullets, heavy machine gun fire, ripping and tearing through these grunts, as if they were nothing more than mere essence of tissue paper in a whole horde of razor blades. Nothing left. not even a single shred, as blood, entrails, and organs aplenty litter the ground, permanently caking it in blood. As it comes to a halt, the lieutenant walks over to, well, the Doomslayer and asks, who is he with? Where's your squad? Thank you for the help, but what's going on? We were told that we were the support. Who are you and what are you doing? As the Slayer just turns and walks into the massive building. As they go, hold it! Kim rushes in front of him. You need to tell me where are you going and what are you doing here? I won't have you jeopardizing our mission, soldier. As the Slayer looks at him, getting right close and in his face. Even though Kim can't see through the helmet, even though Kim can't even perceive this man's eyes, he can feel a large, murderous intent flowing off of him. He feels as if he is a rabbit being stared down by a lion. And he flinches. As he does so, the Slayer stands back up, stretches out, and continues walking along his way. As, well, Phoenix loads his rifle and motions them to follow. Of course, letting the Slayer take the lead. As they begin to ask, Phoenix, what's going on? Do you know this thing? Yep. Me and Dom both do. Yeah, he looks a lot different than I remember. Yeah. Maybe he got an upgrade. Maybe. But could it really be the same guy? I mean, we saw what happened. What do you mean? Is there something you're not telling us? That's the Green Sentinel. Green Sentinel, that's just a myth. No, it ain't. That one thing. Thing? I don't know if it's a man or not. It may look like one. May act like one. But he doesn't fight like one. He fights like a demon. And upon that, the Slayer stops, turns around, and brings a double barrel straight up to Phoenix. No offense intended. He pulls it back and places it back on his hip and continues walking forward. Okay, noted. He does not like being called that. You think? Yeah, I do. He's the only thing I think of that could scare me that easily. You're scared of him? You didn't see the trail of bodies left in his wake. Needless to say, I think anyone would be scared of that sumbitch. As upon with that, the real fun begins to start. As they continue moving through the mausoleum, slowly making their way outside, getting hailed that seeker swarms are in the area. Well, not seeker swarms. Sorry, too much Mass Effect recently. That a certain enemy is blocking the air using organic flyers to, well, interrupt signals as well. Interrupt signals and destroy anything that would be in the presence, that would interrupt the airspace, period. Well, upon hearing that, they take exception to it and begin making their way there. And upon finding another dead squad after mowing through more grunts, Phoenix picks up the Hammer of Dawn, a perfect weapon for a time such as this, as he pays respects and thanks the fallen soldiers for bringing him this. They carry on. The Doomslayer not even stopping or pausing. Pardon me one moment. Sorry, I had to look it up. Cedars. As they finally get to, well, seeing these things in action, these crab-like creatures with large gaping maws shooting out these organic bombs that fly and adjust themselves in the air. However, upon unloading a shot from the Hammer of Dawn upon them, it is hurt, but the thing is still up as Marcus is getting ready to, well, loose another shot. The Slayer pulls out a plasma gun, firing intense high volley streams of plasma straight into the cedar, impacting the already charred carapace, causing it to break apart, shatter, and eventually die in a very long and agonizing screech. As Marcus just looks towards this man, going, "What the hell was that?" As that's when the fun starts. A large horde begins to close in. A couple of the men think this is the end. But the Slayer, you can feel a smile coming off as he just cracks his knuckles and extends his wrist blade. Wait, what the? The cannon over the top of his right shoulder extends, lowers down, and fires off. And wouldn't you know it, upon landing, causes the area to freeze. Boom! And a subtle thump. As it does, he charges in, giving no care, or, how should I say, to them, seeing no care, to him, relying on the strength of his armor and skill to rip through these hordes, as the Gears suddenly realize they haven't even needed to fire many shots off, as this thing, this man, has been tearing through them, has been tearing through this horde, chopping, slicing, blasting, and anytime one would get close, whether it be a Reeker or a Legionnaire, a strange glowing harpoon would launch itself, plunging through the creature's chest, pulling it back over to the emerald, well, the green sentinel. And then boom! The thunderous crack of the shotgun would separate its head from its shoulders, along with most of its torso. As this would continue on and on, for what seemed like minutes or hours, but in reality, was barely the amount of time it would take for someone to brush their teeth. As he looses his flamethrower, charring these things, and simultaneously, almost near instantly, bringing out his automatic shotgun, laying into the living charred remains before they would even expire, blasting holes through them, taking the skulls of one and throwing them into the living occupants of another, just to see the reaction of his fellow grunts upon seeing one of their own get their head shattered apart by another one's skull, letting them know that he doesn't need to use ammo to kill them. If he wants to, he can kill them using themselves as projectiles, using themselves as clubs. He will kill them in many different ways before this day is over. As one tries to get behind him, tries to hold him down, but all that does is get a response of a sheer sharp kick to the leg, breaking the bone out the back of it, causing the Legionnaire to immediately fall to the ground in pain. And then with a quick swivel, almost within the blink of an eye, the Slayer almost efficiently and yet somehow even beautifully swivels around him, using the arm blade and removing its head from its shoulders. As the gears watch in amazement, fascination, awe, and horror, as this one-man killing machine lets loose. Eventually, they fall back. They have to retreat from this killing zone, or they all will die. They find yet another spitter, and it goes much the same way, with Marcus bringing down the Hammer of Dawn, followed by the Slayer blasting it apart with a plasma rifle, and then a third time, and finally they come across Alpha Squad. Well, I should say, they come across the Cole Train first. Obviously. The football player immediately recognizing, well, the Green Sentinel. Realizing what he is, what he represents. He actually offers to shake his hand in a completely mutual manner. This actually perplexes the Slayer for a brief moment before he extends his own. You may be saying, that wouldn't be him. Why would he do that? Well, you also have to remember, the Slayer slayed primarily for revenge against the demons. He accomplished his task. While he still is the Slayer, he's mellowed at least a little bit. He's gone from a 20 out of 5 on the anger scale to a 19.999 on the anger scale, you could say. So he's more than willing to accept a token of generosity. Whether that be a subtle handshake or not, who knows? Might continue on later. But here's where the fun begins. Oh yes. As soon they're able to set up radio contact with Alpha Squad, calling in and needing immediate assistance. I believe if I'm not mistaken, the proper words or something along. Alpha Squad, we have our sights set on you, Lieutenant Kim says. Good, we could use your ammo over here instead, however. Or something along those lines. It's been a while. As, upon them finally getting to the area where they could see them, using the overhead bridge and heavy machine gun turret set up on it, they begin to cut loose. However, the Slayer doesn't like this impersonal, far-range tactics. He prefers getting close. He prefers getting bloody. He prefers to rip and tear. And so he does. He jumps down off the building. He jumps and lands with a solid, almost sickening thud as the, asphalt on the ground is barely able to contain the sheer weight of him, the sheer power of the drop, as it crinkles and crackles, leaving a small crater underneath him. As the rest of the squad is going, is he nuts? Carmine saying, yeah, but at least he's on our side. I like this guy. Let's back him up. As, Dom and Cole both begin to let loose large amounts of bullets from their guns in interchanging patterns. One fires off an entire clip while the other one reloads, kind of way. Meanwhile, Phoenix is firing at full auto on that turret, not letting it breathe, as the barrels run hot. And I do mean run hot. They are glowing. They are sizzling. Oh, this is getting exciting. But the Slayer cares not as he brings out his LMG, his rifle, his machine gun. Except this isn't this isn't the minigun. This is the one that fires rockets. Tiny, little, homing rockets. Oh yeah. And he lets loose, firing a bombardment towards this swarm, even enough to making more explosions that would make even Michael Bay blush in envy. Firing inferno grenades, cryo grenades, from his shoulder-mounted launcher, freezing and burning the enemies in freezing enemies in place and then scattering them apart with missile fire, or causing them to burn and run, so that way he can watch the fiery entrails blast apart from the, explosion from the bullets. As when he's finally running low on ammo for that, he swaps over. Oh yes, and he brings out the full auto shotgun as the barrels whirl And yes, and underneath his helmet, he just smiles. Run dun 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 dun. The thunderous fire of the shotguns roar and echo as with every single blast, more grunts die. More legionnaires die. Everything is being torn apart as Delta Squad is able to get in closer and being able to hold down more suppressing fire. But they're realizing with every single shot they take, there's less and less to suppress. Until finally, they fall back. The Legionnaires fall back as the Slayer begins to look over and reload his weaponry. Everyone questioning, what the fuck is this guy? Who the hell is that? And why doesn't he come down sooner? I think we'll get more answers to that in time. We better. We need this sumbitch around. He, if he can do that to a horde, I want to see what that sumbitch can do to a Bruma. As they make their way, everyone's still alive. Everyone's still in one piece, including Carmine. Oh, but that's when we get to the fun parts. For as they enter another section of this great mausoleum, they can hear the deafening call. Actually, that's not what happens. Pardon me. My apologies, got ahead of myself. As they make their way forward, eventually they are overrun. Or rather, I should say, attempted. As the helicopters come in, about to pick up the entire party, as Lieutenant Kim says we have one more member to pick up. What do you mean? We have the Green Sentinel. Green Sentinel? Yep, he's right here. He's been saving our ass this entire time. We need you to get us out of here. Evac. But as they do, more spitters come and fire upon, well, the helicopter, causing it to crash and burn, causing everyone but the Slayer to scatter as he watches it fall and land a few mere feet from his location, cursing underneath his breath about the loss of more human lives. As the Locusts begin to have a resurgence and charge forward in a suicidal dash, trying to overwhelm the position as the Slayer is distracted. The Slayer lets loose with more volley of fire. More ammunition of his is being spent than he cares to admit on this never-ending, near-ceaseless horde. Bringing out his minigun, bringing out his plasma caster, bringing out virtually every weapon he's forced to. But while they're unloading, while everyone is having to unload their magazines into this horde, a large grunt with solid black armor approaches from the rear. It spots Kim as the words of the Queen echo through its head. cut off the snake's head, and its body will falter. Its body will flounder and fall. As Kim turns around, seeing this thing, he revs his chainsword, his chainsaw, ready to carve into it as this thing just catches it. It catches it as if it was nothing but a mere toothpick. As if it was a toy knife that was brought to bear against an adult. As it tosses it aside and picks him up by the neck. And slowly it brings out a knife and stabs it into Kim. Seeing the pain and anguish in his eyes as everyone suddenly sees this. Marcus hollering for everyone to fall back. As him and Dom provide covering fire. But that's when this black armored grunt didn't expect to see one thing. The Green Sentinel. The one that put so many of his men down. As it begins to charge him, he throws Kim's body to the side as they begin this, attack, this struggle, as the bats, these creatures, begin to swarm around both of them, picking and biting and scratching at the Slayer's armor. But the Slayer just laughs. It laughs as he begins to strike at this thing. He punches it so hard, so powerfully, that this black armored, large, intimidating grunt gets sent flying back into the wreckage. But the Slayer realizes his armor won't hold out against all of them forever. Even his armor has its limits. And right now they're being pushed. Because while the bullets coming from these grunts, these legionnaires, aren't exactly devastating, they do still sting. These bats, or whatever they are, that are biting onto him, trying to scrape him, they aren't deadly by themselves, but in this large swarm, they could easily rend other men to pieces and bones. He has to quickly make a decision, and so he does. He abandons the fight. He falls back. Why, you may ask? Well, not only to preserve the armor, but to preserve his main goal. To save the humans. Because he's tired of watching them die needlessly. Watching his people die needlessly when he can do something about it. He's already done it for his world. Why not for another? As he falls back, he lets out a torrent of flame, blinding the creatures, blinding the bats, as they seal the doors. But that's whenever something fun occurs. The telltale screech of a large berserker echoes forward through the area. As Phoenix and Dom are about to volunteer to protect the squad, the Slayer marches forward, still pissed from the exchange he just had, still aggravated that he wasn't able to claim his prey's head. And he brings out the Crucible Blade, Oh, yes. Now, some of you may be asking, how did he get another one? Well, he had access to the pits, and he still had the hilt. So, all he really had to do was dip it into it and let it reforge itself again. You really think I was going to keep a cool ass weapon like that offline? Hell no. As they both see the strange, glowing blade with runes constantly shifting through it. And they're going, what the hell is that? As they're immediately calling in, trying to figure out how to take care of a berserker. That traditional weapons won't work. They're no good. You might as well be trying to kill an elephant with a BB gun. But that's when the Slayer keeps marching forward. As soon the berserker charges, breaking through the wall, attempting to go through the Slayer. But the Slayer just raises its blade and slices the arm completely off, causing the berserker to naturally and quite quickly shriek in loud, agonizing pain and fury, as before it can even be finished, he cuts it straight through the waist, one through the arm, and one through the midsection. As it flounders and flops around, trying to strike the Slayer, trying to knock it aside. He just chuckles as he takes the spike of it and impacts its head, causing its brain and eyes to sizzle and pop until he retracts it. As Phoenix just states over the comms, yeah, we no longer need to worry about it. We'll be joining you all shortly. As that's where I'll end it here, folks. I hope you enjoyed part 2, and I do apologize for some of the pauses and intermissions. It's been a while, and especially for Gears of War, I had to refresh my memory. So please don't be too harsh on me now. Have a blessed one, and I hope to see you all again soon.